Привет всем, с вами я, Джейни, это College Russian. Today we are talking about winter. So I put on my special меховая шапка, my special Russian fur hat that I don't get to wear very often here. The story of this hat is when I lived in Russia in 2005, I went with my friend down to Voronezh to visit his aunt and uncle. And his aunt, tетя Nina, was not happy with my winter hat that I had. And she said it was not sufficient for the Russian winter. And so she insisted that I take this hat. So that's where this hat came from. So now we are starting into the holiday season, Новогодний сезон. We've got Christmas here in the United States. We're getting very excited for Christmas. My house is decorated for Christmas. And so we're going to start talking about topics that pertain to winter and or the holiday season. So today we are returning to the poem Bronze Horseman by Pushkin. And we're going to look at the way he describes St. Petersburg winter. So earlier we talked about white nights in St. Petersburg, and I'll link to that original video down in the description below. And you can learn more about the poem because I'm not going to repeat too much of it in today's video. But now we're going to transition to how he describes winter. And so we'll be talking about that today and looking at the grammar and the vocabulary in the poem Медный всадник, which is in English, it's translated as the Bronze Horseman. So we're going to get started talking about that poem. Again, I'll leave in the description box below the link to this poem where we talk about white nights, which is an amazing thing that happens in St. Petersburg. So let's get started. So as we've already talked about, Медный всадник is the Bronze Horseman, and it's about this sculpture here of Peter the Great, which was erected by Catherine the Great in his honor. Somewhere at the end of the 18th century. So it's a famous monument in St. Petersburg. And the whole poem is essentially about how Peter the Great subjected nature to his will and had St. Petersburg built essentially on a swamp. Nature, it was really not an ideal place for a city, but he wanted it to be there. And so he forced the city to be built. Well, as a result of that, Спасибо. Yes, if you didn't catch the story about where I got this hat, you can go back and watch the beginning of the video if you came late. Oh, it's shedding fur. Okay, so we're talking about the history of this poem, Медный всадник. So real quick, I may have talked about it in the other time when we talked about Bronze Horsemen, maybe not, but because St. Petersburg is built on a river and next to Lake Ladoga, it is very prone to flooding. And in fact, in 1824, you can kind of see it here, there was a flood that really wiped out a lot of the city. And that's the flood that is mentioned in this poem, the Bronze Horseman. So the whole plot is this guy, Yevgeny, and essentially because of this flooding that St. Petersburg is prone to, he lost his house, and then he lost Parasha, like the woman he's in love with. And he has the audacity at the end of the poem to go up to this Bronze Horseman statue here and give it the fig and say, "Ужо тебе," like, or, kind of our, I don't know how to translate that, but he gets mad at St. Petersburg for building a city in a place where it shouldn't have been built because nature didn't want it there. And the statue comes to life and chases him down. And essentially it's saying, don't mess with St. Petersburg. Don't mess with Peter the Great. He is the greatest. So anyway, that's the premise of the poem if you're not familiar with it. But we're going to return to the introduction to the poem, which is essentially an ode to St. Petersburg. All the things the narrator loves about St. Petersburg. So again, I'll link to the previous video where we talked about this, but, talking about «Люблю тебя, Петра творение», like, I love you, creation of Peter, «Люблю твой стройный, строгий вид», I love your beautiful, stern appearance, right? So all these things that they love about St. Petersburg. And then in the video in the summer, we talked about white nights, but in today's poem, we're going to be talking about St. Petersburg in the winter. So the narrator also loves St. Petersburg in the winter, and we'll kind of talk about some of those different imagery that they talk about. So a big thing to understand about culture, St. Petersburg culture in the 19th century, is the winter would have been the time for balls. like to have balls, right? So here you can see some people having balls. It would have been for Christmas, for the New Year's. You would have invited people over. There would have been dancing, etc. So there's going to be a lot of mentioning of that kind of imagery in today's poem. So again, as you can see, everything freezes over. And winter is actually the better season in Russia than spring or fall, because at least if the ground is frozen, you can still drive on it. Whereas if it's muddy, it's miserable. So everybody who's lived in Russia, especially in spring, knows it's not a pleasant season to be in Russia. So anyway, so here we go. So let's get started. So this is the poem we're going to be reading today. Start thinking if you understand this poem, and hopefully by the end of today's lesson, you will be able to understand all of this. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to read this for you. Люблю зимы твоей жестокой, недвижный воздух и мороз, бег санок вдоль Невы широкий, девичьи лица ярче роз, и блески, шум, и говор балов, и в час пирушки холостой, шипение пенистый бокалов, и пунша пламен голубой. Okay, so see how much you understand of that. Today, the grammar is actually surprisingly simple for a Pushkin poem. The grammar is going to be surprisingly simple. There's a lot of nominative case in this poem and not very many things that changed grammatically. So let's get started. Okay, so I thought this was really fun to first give you a super awkward English translation. So this is kind of how it would be if you didn't know Russian. This is how this poem would sound. So, люблю зимы твоей жестокой. Right? This isn't making any sense in English. Look how awkward the wording is here. Also, if you have any suggestions for translations, especially like this word недвижный, stagnant, I mean, it's not my favorite translation. It doesn't sound very beautiful in English, but just let me know. Anytime you don't agree with my translations, let me know in the comments. Okay, so let's go through and look at the grammar here. So again, notice how this doesn't make any sense unless you understand Russian grammar. So let's talk about the grammar. Okay, so here we have the люблю. Everybody should know this verb by now. It comes from любить, and it's the ya conjugation. And then this whole phrase, cruel, your cruel winter, it's all getting genitive case because there's an of. And in fact, this is the only weird thing in this poem, is he's going to start listing all of the things he loves of the cruel St. Petersburg winter. So this is getting genitive case right off the bat because there's an apostrophe S. There's an apostrophe S. So that's why zima, твоей жестокой, those are all in genitive because there's an of / apostrophe S. So if we think of it like that, then the rest of the poem is going to make more sense. And again, you can play with word order in Russian because you have the cases to make it clear what's what. So there we go. I love your cruel winters, apostrophe S. And we created that apostrophe S by using genitive case. Now, all the things he loves, when you love something, it gets accusative case. And guess what? Accusative case only changes if it's a feminine singular and an animate, like something that is a living thing. So a lot of these words here are not going to change. And it's going to be really great practice for beginners to just identify the gender of these things that he loves. So here we go. We have недвижный воздух и мороз. Those are masculines, not animate, not feminine singular. They don't change. Okay. And then in the gray, you can see a better translation. I love your cruel winters, stagnant air and frost. Now, here we go. We're going to have an awkward English translation. Бег санок вдоль Невы широкой, девичьи лица ярче роз. Again, looking at this without knowing Russian grammar, it's not clear what's happening, right? But we add in grammar notes and it all becomes clear. So, бег санок. Real quick, interesting thing. Sanki, meaning sleigh, is always plural. There's not a singular version of it. So even if you just have one sleigh or one sled, it's still sanki. So бег санок, that's getting genitive plural because the rush or the running of sleighs. And remember, there's no word for of in Russian. You just put the thing into genitive case. So бег санок вдоль, prepositions don't change. but they do cause the things after it to get a case. So вдоль чего? Вдоль Невы. So along the Neva River, which is that big river running through St. Petersburg. And широкий is also describing the river. So that's also going to behave in a feminine genitive form. Okay, so that's why because you're saying along the Neva, the wide Neva River. Then we have девичьи. This comes from the word, you can see it there in parentheses, девица, which means a maiden. And this is a really old formation in the Russian language, which was a way to create possessives. So instead of putting it into genitive case, you could create a possessive, but it was also an adjective. So I'll give you guys an example of them in just a second. So again, nothing is really changing to these things that he loves because they're not feminine singular and they're not animates. We're getting a lot of nominative in here. So девичьи лица. Quick thing, the original лицо, meaning face, is a neuter. And just keep in mind that neuters, when they go plural, they get a or ya endings. A lot of people are very surprised by that. So, and then we have a comparative. These are a good thing to start memorizing if you don't know them in Russian. Ярче, meaning brighter, brighter. So you might have something жарче, hotter, крепче, tighter, for example, stronger, right? So those are a good thing to start memorizing. And then when in Russian, when you're comparing two things, you can either say ярче, чем розы, and the thing that comes after чем is nominative case, or you can just say ярче чего, brighter than what, and the thing that comes after it is in genitive case. So that's why we're getting роз is the feminine genitive plural, and look at that zero ending. The a just disappears when it's a feminine genitive plural. So brighter than roses. And again, here you can see a better translation in the gray. The faces of maidens brighter than roses. Okay, so real quick, we're going to talk about a few more of these kinds of words. They're a very old form of a word. So here's some examples, and you can see if you would know how to translate them. And you don't come by them very often in Russian, and they're usually associated with living things. So for example, this is a very famous book by Mikhail Bulgakov, Собачье сердце. This is translated into English as heart of a dog, a dog heart, right? Казачьи песни, this is from the Kazakhs. They're a type, not Kazakhstan, but the Cossacks, like they're a nationality, an ethnicity in Russia. So that's based on those people. And then look at this one. Koshachi глаз. Koshachi глаз. That's interesting. So that means cat eye, like a cat eye type thing. Okay, so here we go. We're reading the poem some more. And there you can see the awkward English translation. Doesn't make any sense until you know Russian grammar. So we have и блеск, и шум, и говор балов, и в час пирушки холостой. I would love any help translating this phrase, холостой час, because I saw something that it has something to do with the moon, which is weird. So I either found that it meant idle hour or it means like something about the moon. And so if you know what I'm talking about and you know how to translate that concept, let me know. I've never heard that before, that it's something to do with the moon. So let's look at the grammar here. Again, these are all the things he loves about the Petersburg winter. Okay. So the glow and noise and chatter, the speaking, right? The chitter chatter of balls. And again, balov is begetting genitive plural. It's originally a masculine because we're saying the glow of balls, the noise of balls. And I'm not talking about like мяч, like a ball you play with. No, like the parties from olden times. The parties from olden times. So the glow and noise and chatter of balls. And in the hour of a feast. So the original is pir. A pir is a feast. But if you make it like a feminine, or not a feminine, a diminutive kind of thing, then it would be pirushka, which is it's a feminine, and we're getting it in genitive case here, genitive singular, because the hour of feasts, in the idle hour of feasts. Again, here's that phrase, холостой час. If you know how to translate that better, please let me know, because I really don't know like why there was something about having it to do with the moon. Like one of the examples I saw was "Если ребенок родился в холостой час." Like that was something super weird, and then a bunch of stuff about the moon. Yeah, that was weird. I've never heard anything about that. But yeah, the idle hour. Холостой literally means like a bachelor, but it makes sense that it would also mean idle, because like bachelors have nothing have nothing important going on in their lives. So yeah, as you can see, the grammar here is actually really, really simple. It's a lot of nominative, like accusative that looks like nominative, because he's just talking about the things he loves about St. Petersburg winter. And then here's the last line of the poem. Шипение пенистых бокалов и пунша пламен голубой. So шипение is like like the fizzle, kind of like a squeaking, like a fizzle sound. Let's look at the grammar a little bit. So pianisty is foamy. It's like, when you pour a glass of champagne and it has the foam on the top. That is the pień, that's the foam. So, and then wine glasses, it could be champagne glasses, it could be like goblets, for example. But I think it sounds better to say champagne glasses, because then that explains the foaminess. Whereas if it's just wine, it shouldn't be foamy. So, шипение пенистых бокалов. Yeah, hi, Belzbo. It means in the moment of young single men party. Right. So холостой час is, again, it's like the bachelors coming together, having a party, but it's also, I've also seen it translated as the idle hour, which I think is interesting. Again, let me know in the comments if you've heard any reference to this having to do with the moon. I'm very fascinated. Dobry wieczór. Dobry wieczór, Georgos Yassas. So we're talking about these balls, and we're almost to the end of the poem. Let me know in the comments, what is your favorite time in your season? Do you like winter in your season? Because actually winter in Russia is very beautiful. My favorite season is the same as Pushkin, which is осень, which is the fall. And in Russia, my favorite season is definitely summer because of the white nights. Okay, so here we go. So let's finish this last line of the poem that we're going to be talking about. So шипение пенистых бокалов и пунша пламен голубой. Fun little thing here. Okay, so we're really, as you can see, the grammar is so easy. So пламен is masculine, and голубой is describing that. So that's why there's not really any fancy grammar. And those are both masculine, голубой and pламен. And then the burn of the punch, right? In the olden times when they would have the punch bowl and it's got a lot of alcohol in it. So you would have got warm and fuzzy from drinking a lot of alcohol. So some fun fact about this word голубой. So if you say that a person is голубой now, today, it means they're gay, right? And so what's interesting here is, in the same way that in English, gay right now means homosexual, right? But it used to mean happy, merry, a good time. And in fact, right now it's Christmas season, and you hear a lot of songs about make the Yuletide gay. This is not homosexual propaganda. It means, although that's probably what Vladimir Solovyov would say, is that's propaganda. But no, it's gay in English used to mean happy and merry. Same thing with голубой in Russian. He's not saying the gay, like the homosexual flame of the punch. No, he's saying the merry, the happy burn of the alcoholic drink that you've been having. So yeah, fun fact, both голубой and gay, they currently, in today's speech, they mean homosexual, but 100 years ago, they meant happy, merry, etc. So let's go back and read the whole thing. And again, I would love your translations. Maybe you agree with my translation, or maybe you don't. Good. Okay, yeah, just everybody read the comments. There's some interesting stuff there. Okay, so let's go back and read the whole thing together and just translate it as we go. Now that you understand the grammar. Again, you can see that it's actually really simple grammar. This is rare, right? This is rare in Russian poetry for it to be simple grammar. The only confusing thing in this whole poem is the fact that we go straight into genitive case right here. Люблю зимы твоей жестокой. And it's because he loves all these things of, come back to the top, your cruel winter. Yeah, oh, good. Again, read the comments because he's talking about bachelor parties of, you know, the young guys getting together kind of thing, gathering together in the winter, drinking alcohol together, having a good time. And again, the winter would have been the perfect time for that, to be indoors, drinking, staying warm, etc. So again, go ahead and read the comments. They're very helpful. Okay, so one more time, we're going to go line by line and translate it nicely. Here we go. Again, quiz yourself how much of the translation you remember. Люблю зимы твоей жестокой, недвижных воздух и мороз. Okay, so we're going to go 2 lines at a time. I love your cruel winters, apostrophe S, immovable or stagnant air and frost. Okay, again, now he's listing off all the things he loves, all accusative, nominative. Here we go. Бег санок вдоль Невы широкой, и девичьи лица ярче роз. Девичьи лица ярче роз. Okay, so the rush or the running of sleighs across the Neva, the wide Neva. The Neva is the big river in St. Petersburg. Девичьи лица ярче роз. Okay, maidens' faces, young girls' faces, brighter than roses. And it's true. Oh, in Russia, if you've ever been to Russia or anywhere cold, when you come inside, you have rosy cheeks. And it's like you just look like a snow princess. I remember looking in the mirror after I had been outside in Russia and I looked like a snow princess. My cheeks would be like perfectly pink, and then I'd have little snowflakes in my eyelashes, and it was just so magical. Okay, so next is и блеск и шум. Again, he's listing more things that he loves. И блеск и шум и говор балов. Okay, so the how did I translate блеск? The sparkle, maybe the sparkle and noise and chitter chatter of balls. И в час пирушки холостой, and in the hour of these bachelor parties, so all of those things that happen in the hour of these bachelor parties, шипение пенистых бокалов. This is again another thing he loves, so it's not getting crazy grammar. The sizzle or fizzle of foamy wine glasses. И пунша пламен голубой. And the gay/merry burn or flame, like, right, because the warmness you feel when you have alcohol, of the punch. So as you can see, the narrator loves St. Petersburg in the winter as well, because this is the time for parties and drinking. And again, winter, if you've ever been in Russia, in winter, yes, it's cold and dark, but it's actually very magical. As you can see, these trees down here, they get so beautiful. It looks like something from a fairy tale. It's so beautiful. So that's all for this poem. I would love some recommendations of what other part of Медный всадник, since it's one of my favorite Pushkin poems, maybe something about the flood. Any recommendations in the comments would be helpful. What other part of the Bronze Horseman should we cover? Future live streams for the month of December are all going to be holiday related. So we're going to do some новогодние песни. We're going to do some Russian New Year's or Christmas songs, as well as some word roots pertaining to winter, etc. So I hope to see you back here for a month dedicated to the holiday season. Хорошо, это все. Спасибо всем, что вы пришли, и увидимся в следующий раз. До свидания.